participants, speakers, and guests, dear Professor Parsons. It is a great pleasure finally to open this exciting event and welcome you all here at Tel-Aviv University. I'm proud to speak here today as the head of the Cohn Institute, opening this very promising and unique conference dedicated to and inspired of the ideas of Charles Parsons. From the outset, there was no real difference between the man whose life work motivates the discussion here, Charles Parsons, and the wide range of topics and problems, issues brought together in this program. Mathematics, logics, metaphysics, epistemology, matters that both belong to the varied interests of Parsons himself and to the wide intellectual horizons opened by speculations. Before leaving the room for our speakers, I would like to take a few minutes of your time, as one who comes mainly from the field of intellectual history, mostly pre-modern intellectual history, to draw attention to the richness of possible historical notations connected with the nice title of this conference. In a late note from the year 1692-93, Isaac Newton wrote, "I admit that an infinite number of things is difficult to conceive and is therefore taken by many people as impossible. But there are many things concerning numbers and magnitudes which to men not learned in mathematics will appear paradoxical and yet are entirely true. As the two neighboring bodies are always able to approach one another and yet never touch each other. For mathematicians know that the distance between hyperbolae and their asymptotes, when they are produced, always becomes smaller but never vanishes. As Friedlander pointed out, this example of the hyperbolae and the asymptotes, when brought in this specific context of the counterintuitiveness of mathematical truths, represent the reception of two different traditions. The first goes back to Greek mathematics. Apollonius of Perga in his conic sections, Geninus and Proclus are the most outstanding names. The second, on which Newton here directly relies, traces back to Moses Maimonides, on whom we will hear a bit more on Thursday, who himself draws off a long tradition of Arabic speculation. His Guide of the Perplexed, written in Arabic in 1190, in the course of his criticism of Kalam epistemology, Maimonides seeks to establish the thesis that the act of imagination is not the act of the intellect, but rather the contrary. In support of this claim, he says, "Know that there are things that a man, if he considers them with his imagination, is unable to represent to himself in any respect, but finds that it is impossible to imagine them, as it is impossible for two contraries to agree. It has been made clear in the second book of the conic sections, the two lines between which there is a certain distance at the outset may go forth in such a way that the farther they go, the distance diminishes and they come nearer to one another, but without it ever being possible for them to meet, even if they are drawn forth to infinity, and even though they come nearer to one another, the farther they go. This cannot be imagined and can in no way enter within the net of imagination. These two lines, one is straight and the other curved, as has been made clear there in the above-mentioned work." Indeed, the medieval concept of intuition is always related to theories of vision and imagination. And these theories are developed both in pure optics, but also as leading metaphor for all kinds of intellectual vision. Such non-mediated intellectual vision function both in mystical and religious discourse, but also in pure epistemological discussion, as in Duns Scotus. It will continue with this duality all the way until German idealism, and some reminiscences are surely to be found in the modern ideas to be discussed in this conference. In these short introductory remarks, and a few minutes before the beginning of a long and intensive conference, I have no meaning to bother you too much with the exact genealogies and analysis of such set of complexities. Instead, I would like to draw your attention to the way reason and intuition marvelously acts, not only synchronically but also diachronically, as a topic that cuts through ancient, medieval, and early modern thought, not only as part of this, the classic, well-known Athens and Jerusalem thematic of reason and revelation, but also and foremost within the field of philosophy or philosophical mathematical reasoning. The annual international workshop in the history of and philosophy of science is organized as collaboration of three institutions: the Edelstein Center for the History and Philosophy of Science, Technology and Medicine, Leer Jerusalem Institute, and the Cohn Institute for the History and Philosophy of Science and Ideas. The three institutions collaborate for many years now. It is the 27th workshop. And in a way, the collaboration seems to go back to the common father figure of all three institutes, Yuda Elkanah, whom some of you knew very well and who passed almost exactly a year ago. So I take advantage of this opportunity to commemorate him as an intellectual figure who could certainly appreciate and enjoy such multidisciplinary discussion as the one we are about to have now. However, the dominant figure beyond this unique initiative is certainly Ofer Rechter, who first came to me with the idea, which we then brought to our other partners and to the other individuals and institutes who most kindly and emphatically supported the project. So I would like to take this opportunity also for deeply thank her for her passionate engagement with this program and all the hard work involved in the preparation. Of course, the administrative daily work is taken mostly by the Leer staff, especially Shulamit Laron, but also by the administrative director of the Cohn Institute, Anat Zion, and we owe them a great deal for everything that takes place and function here these days. I wish us all a most fascinating discussion of such matters during the next days, and again wish all our guests a most pleasant stay here in Tel Aviv and later on also in Jerusalem.
Friedlander. I'm the chair of the philosophy department here, and it's a very great pleasure and honor to welcome to Tel Aviv University the distinguished participants of the conference on the work of Charles Parsons, Intuition and Reason. And it's for me a particular pleasure since the scholars gathered here include former teachers, former fellow graduate students, as well as present colleagues and friends. The conference program and the various themes it is divided into testify to the unity of thought of a person, to the rich and precise, highly unified yet individual character of the work of Charles Parsons. The body of writings around which the talks of the conference revolve is both historical and thematic, scholarly and formal, analytic, but also touching on the phenomenological tradition, and always deeply philosophical. Given that Kant is one of the anchoring points of Parsons' writing, one might want to speak here of a particular kind of synthesis. Whatever else you might call it, I think the title of this conference, Intuition and Reason, with some assistance from the understanding, might be an apt characterization of the level at which we are to conceive of this unity of philosophical character. The particular confluence of the intellectual and the individual is not only evident in the topics that will be discussed in the next few days, it is also, to my mind, something that occurs in the organization of this conference by two former students of Charles Parsons, Ofer Rechter and Michael Gansberg. In particular, I want, as chair of the philosophy department here, to express my gratitude to my colleague and friend Ofra. I followed during the last 2 years her efforts to make this particular conference possible in a place that might not have been the obvious choice for it, here in Israel. And it's really wonderful to see how the long preparations have come together in such an exciting event. So I wish us all a thought-provoking, intellectually stimulating, and altogether memorable conference.
Good morning. I'm Yad Zisser, the Dean of Faculty of Humanities here at Tel-Aviv University. I'm an historian, historian of the modern history of the Middle East, so wouldn't expect me to address the topic of the conference. Nevertheless, I came here to say how happy I am to see you all here, either in the honor of Charles Parsons and in order to take part in this wonderful conference. When I'm thinking about what humanities mean, well, that's what humanity is all about. Such a wonderful conference. As the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, I'm engaged in an ongoing debate in Israel, not regarding the future of humanities. You know, we usually speak about the crisis of humanities. I myself refrain from using this term. I think it's counterproductive. We are facing serious challenges, but clearly not a crisis. Nevertheless, the debate here at this university is about how to approach the future students and convince them. Today it's all about marketing, you know, to come and join us here at this faculty. And the debate is among those who say, you know, we should be emotional. Try to approach the students and try to convince them to come and study what they like, what they love. And those who say no, rational. I mean, try to explain them that it will benefit them in the future. So it's emotion and rational. It's being emotional, being rational. It's not the same, I guess, as intuition and reason, but it's similar, isn't it? And then, as an historian of the contemporary Middle East, just several weeks ago, Sadek al-Azam, he's a philosopher, well-known Syrian philosopher, wrote an interesting article, بين القلب والheart, بين القلب والعقل, between the heart and the mind. I mean, should we follow our heart or should we follow our mind? Trying to explain what happened here in the Middle East during the last 3 years, whether it was worthwhile, you know, for the masses, for the people to get into the streets and protest and eventually get engaged in this political process that brought, in my specific case, the case of Syria, to the full destruction of this lovely country. Almost 100,000 people were killed. 1/3 of the population became refugees all over the Middle East. And there was the question, were we right when we follow our heart, seeking freedom, liberty, or should we stick to the status quo and to what we were used to, the reality we were used to, بين العقل والقلب, between the heart and the mind? And I think it's also similar. I'm sure that when looking at your problem, I probably might find some answer to some of the questions and be able to address this issue in much depth than I did before. Anyhow, a wonderful event. Thank you for the organizers, and I wish you a successful conference. Thank you very much.